Good morning, everybody. It's the start to another week here. Things are kind of getting back to normal. I'm not sick anymore. The snow's actually kind of melting behind us out here too, but it is pretty chilly out here. I walked out, it was about 14 degrees this morning and we got some healthy winds. That's why I'm kind of standing by the shop here just to stay out of the winds. But let's get into this week and see what we got going on. But to start things off this week, we actually just plugged the semi in. That way it'll start a little bit easier when we get back. We got the good old New Holland plugged in down there as well too. But we're actually gonna hit the road here now. Sorry for the rattling in the old Dodge here, but I'm actually heading over to my other uncle's farm today. And I don't know if I've ever actually mentioned it before, but yeah, I do have another uncle who farms as well. And then all these farms are under the corporation, so we do kind of share some of the equipment and implements between all three farms instead of having just different equipment for every single farm. And that just kind of helps us save a little bit of some money. Some of these tools like that Summers disc that you guys have seen before, and then like the big harrow and stuff, it's not things you're using all the time on the farm. It's just kind of here and there type thing. So it just, yeah, definitely big cost saver for us. If you guys know the Monet Farms up in Canada there, it's a massive, huge farming operation. We're actually getting a map and farming simulator at one of their farms, but they actually bought this place here, I think 2 years ago. So yeah, they're kind of moving down into Montana here as well. There's a lot of mixed opinions on it because it is such a massive farm, and there's definitely kind of some rumors on who's funding their operation as well. And you guys can probably tell we are back on the gravel road since the video is bouncing so much. The road is a little bit tore up and we're going pretty slow because we don't want our next project here to get bounced along too hard. Had to run down to the river real quick because our drinking water is not working, but you can kind of tell winter is on its way here because we got a little bit of some ice kind of flowing down the river now. And this is what we actually went and picked up from my uncle this morning. And this is our Wallinga grain vac. So this is actually how we're going to be getting the canola out of the bin and into the truck. And we'll talk about it a little bit more when I actually get it all set up, because that is kind of a process getting this thing all set up. We're just kind of getting the Peterbilt all warmed up right now. We got the door open on our bin, but we actually got to get this guy moved out of the way so we can get in here with the tractor. Still very cold out there, and so before we actually finish setting this thing up, we have one more piece we have to actually go fix inside the shop. And then I don't know if we're actually going to start kind of cleaning this thing out today, just because it is about 4 o'clock, so I don't have a whole lot of sunlight left. Heading back down to the river again, but something changed since I was down here this morning. There's a few cows down here now, so neighbor must have been starting to move their cows down here for the winter. So this little guy is actually kind of the last part we use on the grain vac for when we're kind of cleaning up off the floor of the bin. But this little handle broke, so I'm going to see if we have some pipe that's about the same size, and we're going to kind of bend it and get this thing all fixed. For our new handle, we just kind of got to get the right bend into it. And so yeah, we just kind of put it in the vise, and as you can see, it's a little bit long. I actually had to make sure I wasn't smacking the light when I put this thing in there. Well, this is about the quietest it's gonna be for a little bit because this thing gets extremely loud. But we're gonna get everything warming up here, finished setting up inside the bin. Takes a little bit getting all that set up, so hopefully the hydraulic oil in the tractor is all warm by the time we're actually ready to go. And sorry if I don't get a ton of footage of this while I'm actually working. It's like 9 degrees Fahrenheit out here right now, and we have a wind chill. My hands are just absolutely freezing right now. That's why I'm actually sitting inside the semi warming up here quick. But yeah, it's just kind of hard to run the phone when your hands are little icicles, so one of these days we'll try to figure out another camera. We're pretty much all ready to go here now. We've got our tube hooked up in the bin. When we start off, we always like to start off just sucking air and no actual crop. Otherwise, you might actually end up plugging this thing. And then when we actually go to start this thing, what we have to do is make sure this lever is pulled back. You can see that little yellow guy spinning there. That way you know that it's all working. And if you don't have this thing on, you'll just plug it instantly. But yeah, this thing kind of does some interesting things. I got this locked down. This lever actually just moves the whole pipe up and down. And then this second lever actually kind of moves it back and forth there. Makes it just a little bit easier when you're trying to load the truck up. But I never move any of these hydraulic levers when I'm actually filling. This thing's just like a big old vacuum, just kind of sucking all that grain in. We're not actually even at full speed right now. I need to move this thing again. But you can kind of see it just kind of going up in the semi there. Like I said, it is a loud machine. Quick little break here, so we actually had to stop because we got to add another section of tube in here. That's one thing, you got to kind of shut everything off, add more tube when you need to. So yeah, we're making pretty good progress in there though, and then we'll actually hop on top of the semi there. You guys can see how much we got on there so far. So we got the front half of the semi pretty much full here, and we're not worried about having this thing overloaded because the guys that actually bought this stuff are going to come get it. So we're just kind of cleaning out the bin to save a little bit of time for them. So yeah, we're just going to kind of fill this guy plump full. Well, we got a little bit more length on our hose here. That's actually the other thing I forgot to mention, is if you guys are wondering how the semi's moving, I'm just actually kind of keeping an eye on the pile up there when we're loading this thing. And then once it gets kind of full, I just run out to the semi, move it ahead a little bit, then run back inside the bin, keep an eye on that thing and move it around when I have to. So yeah, it's a kind of a fun job. You're doing a lot of running around and stuff, especially when it's just one person doing it. We just put our final tube on here, so we got enough length to clean out the whole bin now, and we got our final end piece on here too. So got our little handle. It just kind of makes it easier for moving around, and you can see why it's called the grain vac now. Kind of looks like a little vacuum on this little end piece here. Well, we've got the semi mostly full. I could put a little bit more on the back here, but I've got enough in the bin. I'm not even gonna mess with getting this thing plump full. That way I don't accidentally put any over the top. So we're gonna have to grab another truck, and I think just one of the tandems will hold the rest of what we got in here. Another chilly little morning here, about 3 degrees, and we got a light breeze, so it's pretty cold. But one of the other things we have to do on this grain vac is we have to clean this thing out every once in a while. So it just kind of collects a bunch of dust and other garbage. So what we do is just pop that guy down. Try to stay out of the dust. And we just kind of give it a pretty good smack, make sure everything gets out of there. Like I said, it just kind of, all the nasty stuff. We got the Freightliner set up underneath the vac. Everything should be kind of warmed up and ready to go. We got our tube all set up, and yeah, let's get this kind of final bin cleaning done here this morning. Well, we got everything cleaned out inside the bin here. It's a nice thing about the grain vac is you can get things pretty clean. There is not a whole lot of canola left on the floor here, so now we just got to get that thing kind of all tore down and put away. And another thing I forgot to mention when I actually had this thing all set up was that this grain vac uses all air to move the grain. Some other grain vacs will actually have an auger for kind of the unloading spout bit. So it's nice using this one that doesn't have an auger in it for some crops like your lentils and your peas and other things that you get docked on if they get cracked. So yeah, it just kind of helps you save a couple dollars on your crops. And today we also got the new parts for our clutch, so we're gonna get all the old stuff tore off and get the new stuff slapped on there. And our helper's being a little noisy here today, aren't you, kitty? What do you think? Huh? It's looking pretty cold and wintry out there again. However, inside the shop here, we finally got a little room, and it is nice and warm. A nice warm 52 degrees Fahrenheit, actually. And we actually took the grain vac in here, so we knew it needed a little bit of some service. And so after we finally got the camper pulled out of here, we got this guy thrown in here. And I'm actually just finishing up greasing everything. So yeah, we just kind of ran through it all, make sure everything got a little shot of grease. I got a few more here, kind of on this guy to get done. And then the next thing we're actually going to do is change the oil in this blower here. So you're supposed to do that about every 100 hours or once a year. And I don't think we've done it since we bought the thing like 4 years ago. So might be time to get that done. Except we're kind of running into an issue. So this thing actually calls for a special Walinga oil that you can only buy from the company that actually makes this thing. But we don't want to spend $100 per gallon for that special oil. So hopefully we can figure out what weight this oil actually is and get some cheaper oil ordered. So kind of a chilly way to end the week here. It's actually negative 11 degrees Fahrenheit out here right now. But at least we don't have any wind, so it's not too terribly cold, but I mean, it's still really cold. And today's job is going to be changing the oil on the blower motor of the Walinga. So it's not too bad. We just do have two kind of separate little compartments here we have to change. And I already got everything loose. So we just take out these top plugs, crawl underneath. We got a couple plugs under the bottom there we're going to pull out too, and yeah, not too bad. It's not actually too bad changing the oil on this. I already got everything drained and we're actually getting ready to refill now. But when we go to refill it, all we have to do is pull out this little plug, and then once the oil starts coming out of this hole, then we know we're kind of at the right spot. Kind of another slow job filling these things up. Since this oil is so thick, we don't want to just kind of pump this thing and then wait for this to run out, because it takes so long for the oil to actually fall down here, so you can overfill it really quickly. So what I do is I just kind of do one pump, then we wait a little bit, see if it starts coming out yet. And yeah, so it just takes a little while doing this, but I do know I'm pretty close because I can see it on that little sight gauge over there. Oil is changed, everything is greased, we checked the belts, so I think we're gonna call that good on that, and maybe for the week we'll kind of see what we got going on Saturday as well. And we got one Saturday job we got to get done, which is making sure the steers have another bale so they have a little food. It's a pretty quick job, however it does take a little while, just kind of waiting for the tractor to warm up and then waiting for all the hydraulic oil to warm up as well. Then a little update on just our snow fence we've used to keep the deer out of here. It's actually worked surprisingly well so far. You can see we've had a few deer kind of getting in there, but otherwise it's like way less deer than we usually have in here. So I think it's just enough to kind of slow them down from trying to eat that stuff. And across the pasture we go. We'll see if the steers actually end up running over here. Every once in a while they'll just kind of start heading over this way once they see the bale coming out for them. We just need to get the net wrap pulled off this bale here. Kind of figured those guys would come over here. You can kind of see them way out there in the pasture, but they must be finding some grass to eat out there. It's a little bit cold, but it's not too windy, so it's kind of just a beautiful way to end the week off. And we actually got the cats kind of playing on the bales over there, so we'll just kind of run a little footage of them, and then we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.